everybody, and welcome to our panel about organized play. My name is Linda Zayas-Palmer. I am the development manager for this wonderful team that creates the Pathfinder and Starfinder Society organized play programs. Before we get into what it is that we do, I'd like to introduce our fellow panelists. Let's start off from the left with Mike.
Hi, I am Mike Kimmel, and I am the organized play line developer for the Pathfinder Society organized play program.
Hi, I'm Jessica Catalan. I am the Starfinder Society developer.
Hi, I'm Shay. I am an editor.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, whether you are on the panel or whether you are watching. If you have any questions for us during this panel, please feel free to pop them in the Twitch chat. I can't guarantee we'll answer everything you ask, but I will be keeping an eye on that so that I can bring questions to our panelists. So to get started off, I know that some of you all watching are going to be familiar with what's going on with organized play, and you're here to hear all the latest scoop, and we're definitely going to get into that. But in case we've got folks around here who are new to organized play, I'd like to talk a little bit about what organized play is. So in sort of the conventional long form play experience for Pathfinder or Starfinder, other tabletop RPGs, you might have a long campaign with the same players. You're always telling the same story together. But that is a format that doesn't necessarily work out in all cases. For the organized play is a flexible format that is centered around short adventures, just one session, around 4 hours long, that you can pick up and play with the same character anytime, anywhere. You can play it in your home with your friends. You can play it at game stores. You can play it online. You can play it at conventions, and you can play in a mix of all of those environments. And with that story, you can be part of the ongoing story of our campaigns. So one of the things that we do with these adventures, which you can play with your character in any order you like, is that we collect information about the decisions that people make with their characters. Who do they decide to ally with? What do they think is most interesting? And then from that, we shape the direction that our campaigns are going to go in the future. So if you are part of one of our organized play programs, either Pathfinder Society for Pathfinder or Starfinder Society for Starfinder, your character is a member of the Pathfinder Society or Starfinder Society, an in-world organization they're groups of bold explorers who trek into the unknown. They discover lost knowledge and treasures. They build connections, and they often are going to be making some important decisions. But within those organizations, not everybody has the same priorities. Some people might say it's most important to be bold and brave and go off into trekking new places. Some people might be more interested in knowledge or doing good for the world or protecting against certain types of threats or spreading information far and wide. And so these organizations have factions that are part of them, groups that advance different causes. And your character can decide to affiliate with these groups to promote the causes they care about and earn special benefits. As you play or GM games for organized play, you will earn achievement points, which are a special currency that you can use on Paizo.com to buy and unlock rewards for your character. And in organized play, because you can have a wide variety of GMs from all over the world, online and in person, the campaign does have some special rules to keep the experience fair and consistent. You can find these rules online at Paizo.com by going to the Organized Play tab. And you can also find a lot of other resources that are useful, such as a bunch of pre-generated characters that you can pick up so you can jump right in and play without having to make a character first. Of course, if you do want to make a character first, you are more than welcome to do so. You can use the rules from the Pathfinder or Starfinder core rulebook, or you can expand out your character with a ton of options from other books. And if you are a GM, you can find our full catalog of scenarios online at Paizo.com. There is no test or requirement to be a game master in Pathfinder Starfinder Society. If you've got an adventure and you've got a group, then you're good to go. And a bit later on in this panel, I'll talk a little bit about, finding a group or creating your own. But I figure that folks are probably wanting to hear some more about what news we have to share. So I'm going to turn things over to Jessica to talk about what's going on in Starfinder Society with our new Year of Redemption's Rise.
Yeah, so there are a ton of Starfinder Society scenarios out there, and you can jump in anywhere, so long as you've got a character, or as Linda said, a pre-generated character of the right level. However, we have two main scenarios, which are intended as introductions. Those are our intro scenarios. And then we also have our introduction for the season. So each year we have an ongoing story that we'll tell across the year through some of our scenarios. And starting with season 4, we have an intro scenario quickly to get you into the story for that season. So our first intro scenario is number 1, the first test, by the always amazing Jason Keeley. This is for first through second level characters. It's a general introduction to what it's like to be a Starfinder and to play these kinds of adventures. It's also a really great first contact style mission, which is a lot of fun. Intro number 2 for the factions is by Kate Baker. This is also for first through second level characters. And as Linda mentioned, there are factions within the Starfinder Society. So this scenario is an introduction to our major factions. It gives you a chance to perform tasks for them, get to see what they're about, meet some leaders and prominent characters in the Starfinder Society. And finally, the third one up there is our intro for Year of Redemption's Rise by Alex Fidel. This is for first through fourth level characters. So in addition to giving you a jumping off point for this season, this scenario also introduces 3 minor factions: the Advocates, the Cognates, and the Manifold Host, which brings us to the Year of Redemption's Rise. What is it this year? So, as the Starfinder Society struggles in the aftermath of the devastating Data Scourge digital attacks, they are embarking on a year of change. So they're aiming to rebuild a better, stronger society, to improve the lives of their agents, and to bring positive change to the galactic community. Now, of course, the Starfinder's plans for a brighter tomorrow aren't without opposition. Our Starfinders will face off against opportunistic criminals, internal corruption, and uncover clues regarding a secretive criminal organization with a centuries-old connection to the Starfinder Society. So change and opposition to this change is what the Year of Redemption's Rise focuses on. Now, our second scenario of the year was number 5-2, Road to Reconciliation. This is an adventure for 3rd through 6th level characters that's very near and dear to my heart, written by none other than Shay Snow. Shay, would you like to share something about this one for us?
I really enjoyed reading this one. For 5-2, it is about going out to Cadell and speaking with the Strix and sort of making connections with them in the way that the Starfinder Society really hasn't been able to before. You find out that somebody in the Starfinder Society's past maybe wasn't quite so in with the Starfinder Society ideals, and you get to take your first steps in making something right. It's sort of when I was writing it, but the thing that kind of kept running through my head is like, this is a reverse Indiana Jones. You're giving something back and you're trying to help. You're taking this very sort of native coded species and you're like, we're sorry for what we've done and we're here to make up for it. I'm very excited to see how it evolves from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Shay. So, we've also got some new scenarios to talk about. And Jessica, do you want to talk about some of the other things that we have coming up in this year?
I sure would. So this weekend at Gen Con, we have 3 scenarios debuting. We've got number 5-5, Boom Block Gambit by Lyle Cap. This is for 5th through 8th level characters. It's a big, exciting, important meta plot scenario that showcases one of the major changes around Starfinder HQ this season, which is the closure of the Adamantine Bastille. This is a private prison previously operated by the Starfinder Society. So you are agents overseeing some prisoner transfers during the final days of the Bastille's operation. And that's all I'll say about that one. Play this one to find out. I will say when you do play it, give that chronicle sheet at the end a really close read. There is something I'm really excited about on there. Also releasing this weekend is number 5/6, Historia's Holdout by Hilary Moon Murphy for 1st through 4th level characters. And this one you are tasked with exploring a secret complex owned by Historia Prime, which has come into the possession of the Starfinder Society. Hilary knocks this one out of the park. So check it out. This is part 1 of a 2-part Tarnished Legacy series. So part 2 is going to be 5/8 Star Sugar Superstar, featuring a member of Strawberry Machine Cake, a famous band in our setting, and some other notable figures. And that one will come out in September. Finally releasing today is 5/7, Planar Bloom by Joanne Hong, which is for 5th through 8th level characters. This is our second Drift Crisis scenario. It is a big and wild and weird scenario, and I love it to pieces. Planar matter has collided with Akaton's waste, and the Starfinders are sent to investigate. When they arrive, they find a verdant paradise. It's up to you to find out what's going on and decide what to do about the planar matter and these strange occurrences. So this is our second Drift Crisis scenario of the season. But what is the Drift Crisis? I know I'm not the only one who has something to say about it.
Shay, I know that you have worked on this big project, the Drift Crisis hardcover that has just come out. Can you tell us a bit about what is the Drift Crisis?
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun on the Drift Crisis project. The Drift Crisis is, just a starter base on this. A drift is how we, move through hyperspace, how we move through packed worlds and near space and make connections with other planets and do our long-range communications. And the Drift Crisis is, well, what if that stopped? What if that broke down a little bit? Ships that were in the drift got thrown out, or they got stuck in the drift, communications got disrupted, everything got kind of thrown into a whole hullabaloo, and now we're all trying to elbow our way through it and make everything better again.
Awesome. So what was your, I know you were involved in this product. What was your connection to it, Shay?
Oh, I wrote the Corpse Fleet Opportunists because, I love space undead. Everybody knows that. I wrote basically the Corpse Fleet taking advantage of the Drift Crisis to go, hey, what if we just sort of came back and, just started, stirring stuff up?
The Drift Crisis is really a great opportunity for, it's a big, not just world, but galaxy shaking event that you can incorporate into all of your stories in Starfinder. And the Drift Crisis book has some guidelines for how to put a Drift Crisis spin on a lot of the adventure paths that have come out. And I know that Jessica's got some more plans for how to use the Drift Crisis in Starfinder Society coming up beyond the adventure that she just mentioned there. Can you tell us a bit more about that, Jessica?
I do. So we have 4 Drift Crisis adventures this year, 1 special, which is already out, and 3 scenarios. So each of these 3 scenarios is a standalone adventure. Each tells a different kind of story about the Drift Crisis, and each is on a different level range. So first is number 5/4, Fragment of the Fourth. This is our high-level scenario by Isis Wozniakowska. It's already out. This is a rescue mission that will take you from the corridors of a derelict starship to an annexed drift beacon, and into conflict with a group worshipping something known as the Fourth. We also have number 5/7, Planar Bloom, of course, which is our mid-level scenario. And our final scenario of the year, which has never before been announced, is number 5/14, Ghost Level Delve. This is for 1st through 4th level characters. It's centered on Absalom Station. And that's all I'm going to reveal about that one right now. So you can look for this one near the end of the Year of Redemption's Rise.
I see we have Isis here in chat. Hi, Isis. Thank you so much for writing that adventure. Yes. Very cool. So, for as far as things that are, there's a request to repeat the name of that scenario.
Number 5/14, Ghost Level Delve.
Ghost Level Delve. What are people going to find in those mysterious and dangerous places in which few dare to venture? Absalom. So that is some of the things that we've got going on in Starfinder Society, but we were also going to be seeing some of the content from Starfinder Society presented in a new and shiny format with the Scoured Stars Adventure Path. So the Scoured Stars Adventure Path is the Thurston Hillman's brainchild, and I am super excited about this project. This is an opportunity to take that foundational story of the Starfinder Society campaign, that situation where the Starfinder Society is in a period of turmoil. They've just lost so many of their agents in this missing Scoured Star system, and bring that story to people in a new format. So this is going to be certainly based on what you would have seen in that first season of Starfinder Society, but it is going to be revised, pulling in feedback that people have brought over the years for what would really make those scenarios shine. What are the things that they liked? What are the things they would want to see changed? It's going to be they're going to be consolidated and compiled with new additions, new information, and a format that is designed instead of with organized play, where you might have things being more separated and designed so that it's okay maybe if you didn't play the other scenarios first to make sense of it. This is really presented as a full story that takes your characters from first level all the way up to 15th level. And I also say that this one it's not going to be using like organized play level ranges and stuff like that. Instead, it's going to be using the milestone leveling system. So rather than needing to earn enough XP to definitely level up, your character is going to be able to move through their career at a faster pace based on what makes sense for the story. There's going to be suggestions and opportunities to pull in new adventures to go in between if you'd like to have your characters go off and do other adventures, because you are Starfinders after all, and Starfinder Society agents do like getting into other adventures. And there's a question in chat: do we get Chronicles? Yes, this is going to be sanctioned for organized play. So that is going to be really awesome, and I'm excited to see what Thirsty has done with that. He's been working super hard on making sure to make that into a product that is going to showcase some of the storytelling from organized play to package it in a different format, but it's also going to have some new surprises for people who are familiar with those stories. So let's go ahead here and move on into our other big organized play program, which is debuting a new season right here at Gen Con. Take it away with Pathfinder Society, Mike.
Yeah, it's an exciting weekend for Pathfinder Society, for the Pathfinder role-playing game, of course, because we are debuting Year 4 of 2nd Edition Pathfinder Society, the Year of Boundless Wonder. So I hope plenty of people are enjoying their sessions of this new campaign so far. I'm honestly very excited about it, very excited to hear the reaction. It's been something I've been thinking about and working on quite a lot for many, many months now. It feels like a really long time, because it has been a really long time. So here's this lovely cover art that we'll be seeing in on each of the scenarios for A Year of Boundless Wonder, featuring some old friends, some new friends, and lots of interesting, wondrous treasures. Let's see. One of the, I think, most exciting parts about my job here at Paizo over the last year and a half has been kind of planning out a new season of an organized play campaign. One of the first things I did when I joined Paizo was sit in while Thurston Hillman was sort of pitching Year 3, which is also exciting that you can play the conclusion to Year 3 right now as well, which is just released this past month, the Year of Shattered Sanctuaries, of course. And in sort of coming up with how to follow in the footsteps of year 3, trying to think about, well, what should I do next with the Pathfinder Society campaign. I was looking at the seasons that had come before, and for whatever reason started thinking about Pathfinder Society seasons like real seasons. And I've talked about this in a blog post before, but just to sort of sum up, if you think about, year 1 of Pathfinder Society, which you can still play, by the way, all of these plots and stories, people still are running these past scenarios, so you can jump in with a new character with the brand new year 4 that's coming out now, or you can go back and play the other pieces of the campaign. Year 1 was the year of the open road, right? And I started thinking about it as spring. It was all about exciting new adventures and new roads opening up to new places, and like a magical maze that led to all these exciting things. And year 2 was focused on exploring, kind of, doing the classic Pathfinder thing of going off to this new land and exploring and kind of figuring out a problem, what was corrupting this land of Iovaria, and lots of fire and things like that. And so I thought of it as like summer, right? Grand adventure and exploration. And year 3, which is just now concluding, was Year of Shattered Sanctuaries, and it was a time of change and sort of reflection on the factions of Pathfinder Society in years past, and what maybe mistakes were made in the past, and kind of examining past allegiances and transitioning to the future. And so naturally, year 4 would be winter, if that year 3 was sort of autumn and time of reflection. Year 4 is thus winter. And one way I could have gone was like super dark, right? That kind of is a natural way to maybe take a winter themed campaign. But I decided to head obviously in the direction of boundless wonder, lots of cool treasures and light and hope, and still have a sinister enemy, sinister nemesis kind of lurking, and wanting to use some of these treasures for her own ends. And so there's still plenty of evil to fight, but it is more a season of cool magic items and interesting stories about them. And you might be wondering, well, what are these interesting treasures? So we've got treasures like these to show you. I think we might have some interesting art.
Yes.
For some of them.
Can we get the slide up for that, please?
There we are. So we have,
awesome.
These are some of the items that you're going to be discovering very earlier on in the season. In the intro scenario, which you can play right now, intro Year of Boundless Wonder by yours truly. And then each of these items has more scenarios to continue their plot throughout the season. So we have here a very interesting rune-encrusted magic dagger, which is somehow linked to something buried out in the remote deserts of Thuvia. We have a strange key made of metal and crystal from somewhere we're not quite sure, somewhere perhaps beyond this world. And we have an item that's more creature than item, a skull that likes to make lots of puns and is very wisecracking. She's very interesting and hilarious, and you meet her right off the bat. And then, of course, the symbol for year 4 is this chalice with this strange liquid inside it, which our enemy of the Pathfinder Society is very interested in this item in particular for reasons you will discover. So
we
these
had a question in chat here.
Oh, go ahead.
Is this treasure vault stuff? These are going to be brand new items that we're going to be exploring as a part of the Pathfinder Society campaign. But I won't say that the timing of treasure vault is not very useful for
yeah.
season that is about treasure.
it'll be a good resource as we move forward with the season for sure. These are some of the key items, in one case literally a key, that will each have sort of future two-part arcs. In the case of the skull, the dagger, and the key, each of those will have a two-part metaplot arc, and then the story of the chalice will also be further explored later in the season. So I hope everyone's excited for those. Just like Starfinder Society, if you're thinking of jumping into Pathfinder Society, we have intro scenarios, intro 1, which is called The Second Confirmation by Thurston Hillman, and kind of introduces you to a mission called the Confirmation, which is like your transition from being into a fully fledged field agent for the Pathfinder Society. And this character here, Rain and Cloudy Day, has gone missing on his own confirmation. So your confirmation mission is to figure out what happened during his confirmation mission and kind of go help him out. And you might have noticed he's features in the art for Year 4 as well. And then Intro 2 introduces us to our factions. It's United in Purpose by Brian Duckwitz, and it kind of follows directly up on Intro 1, further exploring the factions of Pathfinder Society and setting a good stage for then diving into the intro to the Year of Boundless Wonder, which the factions of the Pathfinder Society have different opinions on what should be done with all these interesting items. Naturally, some of them want to analyze and learn more about the items, and some of them want nothing to do with that and want a more safe approach. So there's lots of interesting questions about what do we do with this power and treasures throughout the season. So knowing a little bit more about the factions by playing those intro scenarios is helpful, but not required. You can also pick up this handy book, which is an older release that we have, but it is the Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide, which includes all kinds of information about the factions, different lodges of the Pathfinder Society, which are kind of like their home base kind of situations, and there's character options in the book as well, some interesting treasures that you can pick up, some gear for your characters, and it's a useful resource for the campaign.
I'm seeing an implied question, some questions in the chat about the chalice and the skull. Was the skull drinking the liquid in the chalice the cause of the gap?
Was it the cause of the gap? Oh man, how did they figure us out so quickly? The whole drift crisis was caused by taking... No, I'm kidding. Hilarious.
Folks who want to learn more about those, like Mike said, should definitely check out the intro to the Year of Boundless Wonder if you want to know more about all of those.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we have 2 other scenarios out this month, not metaplot scenarios, not tied directly to these treasures, but you can play them if you're at Gen Con. And then later this month, otherwise, we have 402, which is Return to the Grave by Joseph Blomquist. And it is a sort of sequel to an early Year 1 scenario, Escaping the Grave, though it's not a direct sequel, I would say. And it involves heading straight into the Gravelands, which are sort of the realm of the Whispering Tyrant. Lots of undead, and you're going to save some refugees, and some of them are quite interesting indeed. And it's kind of a survival horror type experience. And we have 403, Linorm's Legacy by Jessica Catalan, which is about wrangling a bunch of rambunctious Linorm children while the Pathfinder Society is in diplomatic negotiations with the Linorm King, White Estrid. Jessica, do you want to chime in about anything special in that scenario at all?
So normally I very often get hired to write kind of creepy things, and I totally am cool with that, and I love a good horror adventure. But my daughter constantly says, "Mom, can you please not write something spooky? Could you maybe write something fun?" So I told Mike, "Hey, I'm looking for something not spooky to write. Give me something cool." And he's like, "Hey, do I have the thing for you?" So I started on it just a couple days later, and I had so much fun making up just goofy, fun encounters to do while you're trying to take care of a whole bunch of juvenile, troublemaking, adorable, and wonderful little Linorms. It was so much fun, and I probably haven't had as much fun writing a scenario as I have this one. It was
I'm glad to hear it. It was amazing to develop, and just it was a delight, and I can't wait to hear people's experiences playing it.
It's a masterpiece, and that art too. Oh my god. It's got to be some of my favorite art that I've ever seen for a society adventure. Or it's just you got to see it. You got to see it. I can't wait to hear what people have to say about it.
All my delightful little Linorm babies are adorable,
and they all have art, and they all look. The artist just did a great job of making each of them distinct, with really specific. They're all kind of dragons. They all have to look kind of green, and they're all kids. So you kind of got to give them a lot of personality, and they really came through with it.
So there's a request for some art. We don't have a piece from that to show right now, but if you go to Paizo.com and take a look at our August scenario preview blog, there is one of those Linorm pieces that got previewed, as well as some other awesome art for the scenarios that are coming out in August. But if you want a chance to actually see those scenarios in action in a preview to their full release at the end of August, then Gen Con is the place to go. So let's see. Also, there's another thing I wanted to mention for Pathfinder Society that's come out pretty recently. We have a new set of. You might be familiar with the faction pins. Pathfinder Society in First Edition had special pins produced by Campaign Coins to advertise, to show you can show whether to show your affiliation with the different factions. And we've got those in Starfinder Society too. And now we have them for Pathfinder Society. So if you want to represent any of the Pathfinder Society factions, you want to represent the Horizon Hunters or the Vigilant Seal or Radiant Oath or any of those other ones, now you can. You can find those on Paizo.com as well. I just got my set of them, and they are really spiffy. So, Mike, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Pathfinder Society before we move on?
I'm happy to take any questions if there are questions in chat, but otherwise, I can't believe that year 4 actually is launched now. It's just wild.
It's always such an experience to see the things that you create bringing experiences to other people, to see people enjoying that, whether you are whether you're whatever role you have in that, whether you're an author or you're an artist or developer, an editor, that being a part of this is just such a privilege. So
yeah.
I don't want to get too sentimental here, but we really appreciate all of you in the community who make this happen. We did get a question. Will we get to see Rain more?
Yeah, I mean, Rain is a prominent character on the cover art for Year 4 for a reason. He is, you interact with him quite a bit in the intro scenario. I'm sure that will not be the last we see of a Rain and Cloudy Day.
I guess one other thing I was wondering, if for the two of you, both of these seasons have sort of this sense of, maybe there was some troubles that were happening before, but right now we are the agents of change. We are exploring these new wondrous possibilities. So was that like at all intentional, or was that like completely independent, that you were both sort of in that creative space?
When I, shortly after I started here, I had to immediately launch into figuring out what the heck to do for the next season and pitch it. And it was a really interesting experience to jump right into that. But there were, last season, the year of the Data Scourge, really felt like the kind of year that should affect us going forward. And I'm a really big fan of, in our games, having the things we do be recognized and seeing the repercussions of that. And that's one of the great things about organized play, is like that we keep track of the things you do and you report them, and then those things influence the future. And this season, Data Scourge really felt like the kind of season where we can't just ignore that and launch immediately onto something different. And there were a lot of ways I could have taken Data Scourge as a jumping off point, and we could have told, a story about the infighting in the society and the fracturing and everything, and, suspicion. And that's just not a place I wanted to go. Like, I feel like right now that's not the kind of season we need. So I really wanted to take that and move past that and try to look at this from a place of hope and the things that we could become and the things that we could change. So for me, making Year of Redemption's Rise was very much an intentional decision to go this route and to tell these stories that we're telling this year. And I really look forward to when we have continuing that story in the next year and the next, right? I want to see where we go from here too.
Yeah, I'd say for me it was also a very intentional decision and a coincidence, as far as both Pathfinder and Starfinder Society heading in that more hopeful, positive direction. I spoke a little bit about, thinking about the themes of winter and how easy it would have been to take things in a darker direction, and just knowing that right now where the world is, that I wanted something more hopeful and lighthearted in a way, although there is still an evil person you get to punch in the face this season, who's messing with the society. But these treasures are not things that the Pathfinder Society has taken. They're things that have been, in a way, entrusted to the Pathfinder Society as an organization that can maybe do something positive with them and move forward in a more positive direction with, we have these treasures. We are not going to just like hoard them all away or put them in a museum or use them for our own ends. The villain of the season is trying to take the items and use them for her purposes. And so it was very much intentional. Also, just like as my background as a history teacher, we learn about the past and we examine our past mistakes, and we should be very critical, like we were in Year 3, Year of Shattered Sanctuaries, of some of the things the Pathfinder Society has done in the past. But the purpose of all of that should be to then say, well, what's next? What should we do now based on what we know about the past, and what should we do moving forward into the future? So it's definitely very intentional that we're heading in that direction with Year 4.
And yeah, because that's one thing that I found striking is that while the seasons are very different, and some of what's going on in them, that they have that thematic commonality, and that they have that situation where it feels very empowering to have stories where the organization recognizes that there's some kind of change that needs to happen, and then the PCs, the players, you are the ones who are going to be in the driver's seat of deciding what that future is going to hold. And like I see in chat saying it's these organizations, they're not like they're not all squeaky clean, and they're also not all like on an evil path or whatever. They are complicated organizations with people who have a lot of different perspectives and goals, who are working together for working together toward some common objectives. So I think that watching how people respond to these seasons, and the kinds of decisions that characters make through these seasons, are going to really have the potential to shape where we go in the future. And so I look forward to going on this journey with all of you. Let me see if we had a question in chat. How does one get involved with freelance writing for Paizo? Oh, that's a big one. Generally, actually, does someone? I've just talked a fair bit. Does someone else want to start off on this one?
I can plug Freelance Forge, if I may, which is just a forum community called Freelance Forge, and it's not a large community. It's maybe 200 people, maybe 10% of them are active in any given month, and it's just people who are interested in RPG freelancing. I founded the community. I don't run it anymore as a employee of Paizo, but thank you, Kitsune Warlock, for popping the link right there into the chat. You can go in there. It's a private community, forum community. It doesn't move too quickly, but people are always willing to pop in and chat about freelancing and the ins and outs of freelancing. I can't guarantee that being a member of Freelance Forge will get you assignments, but it's certainly a way to just learn more about freelancing.
I would add that there's a lot of ways to get into freelance writing for Paizo, and I think if you asked 10 different people here at Paizo, you would get 10 different answers. One of the biggest things is just write something regularly. If it's a blog, which is how I got noticed in the first place, whether it's writing like reviews, which is also my path in there, I guess, whether it's writing like literal content that you can go on Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite. You can write your own stuff using Pathfinder and Starfinder setting, and you can sell it, make money for yourself, but it also gets you writing, and it gets you the experience you need to be able to write products to a theme, to a topic, to a high quality, and show us, so that when you're ready to reach out and say, hey, I love your games, I love your system, I know how to play, I know how to write it, and here's some stuff I've done, that can be a really great way for us to see that you have done some stuff, see that you're interested, see you actually know the game, and give you a shot. And then you're going to reach out to developers, right? You're going to email folks like me, you're going to email people on our hardcover lines and say you're looking for stuff. Chances are your first stuff will be very small assignments. And then as far as organized play, some of the first assignments we're going to give out is going to be bounties. Bounties are really, Starfinder does bounties. They're very short. They're 1 hour long scenarios. You can play them in organized play, or you can play them outside of organized play. They're only like an hour long. So that means as a writing assignment for adventures, those are about 2,500 words. So that's about the smallest chunk you'll have for an adventure assignment. And we have a couple of those out already. They're wonderful. And they're a really great way to get into adventure writing if that's the course you want to go.
Those are...
No, go ahead, Linda.
If you had something you wanted to add, I don't want to interrupt you, but...
For getting started with freelance writing, like Jessica said, it's 10 different answers from 10 different people. I recommend having a social media presence. Always works. If we don't know who you are, we can't find you. We don't know that you want to write for us. Putting together a small collection of what you have written and showing that you can grow in your writing, and honestly, just like persistence and diligence. If you don't hear back the first time, just kind of keep at it, keep working on your stuff, read everything you can. That's all I can suggest.
Oh, and I wanna shout out something Mike just said in chat here. If you want to write for org play, it helps to be involved in organized play. Definitely folks who are involved in the organized play community, who are volunteers in the organized play community, that's another way to get noticed. And not just by us, because folks at Paizo talk to each other, right? And if we you don't have to memorize the staff list. You can to know oh well, I have to figure out exactly who I need to talk to work on a Lost Omens book. So you can, if you get in contact with us via email or via social media or whatever else, and let us know what you've done, and also let us know what you're interested in, because then we can help put you in contact with the right people and find projects that would be good for you.
Yeah, and I just would add that in my personal experience, the thing that made me much better, much faster at writing for Pathfinder was playing lots and lots of Pathfinder. And the thing that made me sort of understand the format of writing adventures for Pathfinder was GMing a lot of both society adventures and adventure paths, and just using the content a lot and just sort of immersing myself in it. And then that, more than even my own practice as a writer, helped me to improve as a designer. So it really helps a lot to be involved and be around other people who are playing, and org play is a good way to do that.
And another thing that can be useful too is playtest. When you create your stuff, try it out with your friends. Playtest your stuff. See how it runs, because it can be easy to think, oh yeah, I know how people are going to approach this, and then if you've got experience as a GM, you well know that as soon as you're sure that you know what's going to happen when the players see your content, that's exactly when they're going to go completely flying off the rails into outer space. So, published content doesn't have to account for every possibility. Your rules don't have to account for any way that someone might read them in any different direction. You're never going to have language that is perfectly unambiguous. You're never going to have a story that covers every possibility. But hitting those major bases to make your stuff understandable, while also making sure that it is that it's really gonna speak to people. You're looking for an adventure. You want something that people are going to be inspired to participate in. That's going to give them options for how they want to approach it, and give them a chance to experience being part of that story and succeeding at it. And for a character option, you want something that people are going to look at and they're going to say, oh yeah, that's some fun thing I want for my character. You can always make a thing that's this thing just gives a bonus, but something but if it has a story, if it speaks to people, then it's going to be that much more powerful. I have a question. There's a question about integrating Pathfinder Society adventure material into unsanctioned home games. Yeah, so Pathfinder Society scenarios, you can certainly play them in sort of the intended way of as a part of the Pathfinder Society campaign, or Starfinder Society scenarios as a part of the Starfinder Society campaign. But just like any other adventure material that's out there, they are something that you can mine for your own ideas. One of the tools that I have used for figuring out what's happened in the past in scenarios, because there are just so many scenarios. Actually, if you go into Pathfinder Wiki, you can search for scenarios by location. And I believe Starfinder Wiki has a similar one, though. Starfinder doesn't have quite the giant backlog that Pathfinder Society does, so I haven't necessarily needed to look into that as much. But if you're searching by location, then you might be able to say, hey, this is an adventure that's in the place that I want. Or, maybe you don't want to keep the place, but you want to keep the encounters and file the serial numbers off and change the background of the story a little bit to make that work. So I would say, yeah, you can definitely consider them to be a resource. I know certainly in my GMing, I've enjoyed mixing content from a variety of sources, like running an adventure path and finding a way to fit modules into it or fit scenarios into it. And I guess another thing too is you can also use those scenarios as breaks from that longer term experience. Especially if you have a group that you're not always going to have the same people who are available every week. Society scenarios are great to bridge those gaps or as a palate cleanser, whether you are running them with official rules or not. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? I think I could probably take one more. Oh, I see something about missing something. Did I miss someone's question?
There's one about how best to add drift crisis scenarios into a drift crashers and then hackers campaign, I assume, from our perspective. So just how to integrate the drift crisis with drift crashers.
So when I was planning our drift crisis scenarios, I very purposely wanted to make sure that we touched on as different concepts as we could from our other lines, right? We have our free RPG day adventure, we have our drift crashers, we have drift hackers, we have all kinds of awesome the drift crisis case files, lots of different scenarios. And when I was choosing ours, I was very purposefully trying to make sure not only did we get a diverse array of them throughout our season at different levels and totally different kind of concepts, but also that I wasn't doubling up on something we've already done. So in that way, they're purposefully very different. On the other hand, your Drift Crisis stories can be anything. And if you read Drift Crashers, literally anything. It is way out there. So I would say if you're going to try to integrate them into your home games for Drift Crashers, Drift Hackers, Fragment of the Fourth ties in best story-wise with Drift Hackers, and it's also a higher level one. So you could, if you wanted, spin something off of the end of Drift Hackers and lead into that as use it as inspiration for a post higher level after you've fixed the drift crash, what is going on with this mysterious fourth. And in addition to finding that in the Fragment of the Fourth scenario, you'll also find information on that same plot seed kind of thing, the fourth, in the Drift Crisis book. As for our other ones, Planar Bloom, you could run, if you really wanted to, as one of the locations that they crash into during the course of Drift Crashers, right? Drift Crashers is one where you are cast adrift out in the spit out all over the place by the drift crash. You're ejected into other planes by it, and you kind of go on a tour de force of all these really wild, wacky places. Now, Planar Bloom will be the least strange place you visit through the course of Drift Crashers if you add it in there, but you could add it in there, and it would be a fun, intermediate romp kind of thing. The hardest to work in is probably going to be our last one, 514, which I already said I wouldn't spoil more about. But it is very low level, so you'd have to either completely change a whole lot of stuff or run it first. And it centers around Absalom Station, which if you're going to do these big wild ones, is probably, you'd have to fit it in near the beginning somewhere.
So we didn't talk about bounties during this because bounties are technically not organized play scenarios, but we do have one of our authors here in chat for the one that just came out. So I would like to give a shout out to Shan Wolf for the Starfinder bounty that is just premiered. Poacher's Prize is a really fun adventure where you are investigating a situation where a genetically re-engineered extinct animal species. There's just a very few of them who have been re-engineered, and they have they've gone missing. And I would say this bounty really gives a lot of flexibility for how players can approach a complicated situation. You know, you have it really stands as an example of, just because an adventure is short doesn't mean that it can't really embrace the creativity that players can bring to the table. So I recommend you check that out. We are just about out of time here, so I'm just going to very quickly say thank you all for coming. I recommend that you check out Organized Play if you haven't already. There's a lot of places to find it. If you are at Gen Con physical, head on over to the Sagamore Ballroom and talk to the HQ people there. If you are interested in attending Gen Con online, go to paizo.com/Gen Con to find the Gen Con online schedule, as well as a link to the Discord to sign up to play games there. And there are plenty of other places to find games. You can go to pfschat.com to get connected with to players in the GMs in the online community. You can find folks at other gaming conventions or your local game store. There are all sorts of places you can find games, and we love to chat with you all more about this, but we are out of time. So thank you all for coming, and have a wonderful convention.